Bro, we got one more day. We got one more day until the NBA season starts, bro. I'm very excited. This month has been going by really, really fast. I'm not even going to hold you. But, fam, one more month and the NBA season is finally here. And very excited. But before the season started, right? Kevin Durant, shout out to you, Shay. Shout out to you, Shay. Appreciate the support, my guy. Um, what's it called? Before we get into the season and before we get into anything drastic, right? I think there's a bit of a documentary that came out. Kevin Durant and Netflix hosted it. I haven't really checked it out yet, but I definitely wanted to talk about Kevin Durant's career and how it's been shaped. I seen a couple clips, and I remember James Harden talking about how he didn't want to get traded, and when he did get traded, he was very upset about that because he really thought that that nucleus of KD, Russ, and himself was really going to be competing for championships. And when he got traded by OKC, it definitely hurt, you know. And that just showcases the business side of the NBA and the business side of the NBA and how this is why I say like there's never really 100% truth in anything, right? Because at the same time, we can say players, maybe you can say go too far when it comes to their, wanting to go to a different team, wanting the amount of money that they want, um, and kind of taking advantage of teams, right? You can definitely make that argument now, but especially when we look back and look what these players has gone through. I mean, look at a guy like James Harden. James Harden was a guy that definitely wanted to stay on OKC, wanted to compete for titles. And what happened? They traded him. They literally traded him. Shout out to you, Daniel, Pep, LUL. Salute to you guys. Like the video, subscribe. Remember to support Kretschman Media, man. But yeah, so James Harden is actually a perfect example of I wanted to stay with this team. I wanted to compete for chips with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And what did they do? They traded me. They traded me. So then when we look at James Harden and how he's handled his career, I mean, can we really blame the guy for how he's handled his career? Where now, especially later on in his career, is more of like, okay, this has to better suit me. This needs to be a good fit for me. It's all about me because look how Oklahoma City and look how they treated him, bro. You know, so I can understand that when it comes to James Harden, I can understand why he is the way he is based off what happened to him. Um, at the end of the day, does that really make it right that now players are really taking advantage because of what happened 10 years ago? I don't believe so. But to each its own, I can understand where it came from. You feel me? And I wish we got an NBA reality TV show in like 2015 dub. I'm not going to lie, that an NBA reality TV show, I mean, they did have that, the Housewives. The basketball wives. That's what it was. It was the basketball wives. But it would, but yeah, reality show. I mean, honestly, if we're gonna be honest, the NBA is a bit of a reality show now. You just got to really connect the dots. Um, but yeah, so when I look like a guy like James Harden, I can understand why everything progressed. And now when you look at a guy like Kevin Durant and the outlook of his career, I will. I'm not gonna lie. I will stand 10 toes down and die on this hill saying like Kevin Durant has got to be one of the most unluckiest players I've ever seen in my life. Honestly speaking, he has to be one of the most unluckiest players I've ever seen. Kevin Durant, when he started out in the league, everyone loved him. People tend to forget that all the time. Like Kevin Durant in his first years when he was playing with Oklahoma City, Kevin Durant was like one of those golden childs, man. Everyone loved him. Everyone loved rooting for him. Everyone just loved KD. They loved his game. I remember they loved him so much they were really like Stephen Curry. They were really having this. Oh yeah, KD can be better than LeBron. KD is on that level with LeBron. Yeah, KD's right here with LeBron, and he's definitely could be better than him. They really were having those conversations. I always thought LeBron was definitely they were top two, but LeBron there was definitely a gap for me. But KD was definitely getting that amount of love in his career when he was younger and then into it when he was entering his prime in the later stage of his career on OKC. And man, the switch up on him and what happened to him just because of one decision is crazy. But when we look at that time when he was with Oklahoma City Thunder, we look at the time in which he spent with Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Serge Ibaka. I mean, we honestly, there's a lot of cases in those seasons where Oklahoma City Thunder they drew the short end of the stick, if I'm going to be honest. Where, yeah, they had the beginning of the career when they were starting out, when they were young. 2011 was bad for KD, Russ, and James Harden. And before that, they were young and losing. But after 2012, man, I mean, 2012, they go to the finals. They compete against the Miami Heat, LeBron James, D-Wade, Chris Bosh. KD has a very good series there. Russell Westbrook and James Harden kind of was on edge, but especially in their first finals appearance, you can kind of expect that from younger players, right? So they have building blocks. And then what does happen? This why KD's just so unlucky. Then what happens? They trade James Harden, a very good piece to that crew, a superstar in the making, if we're going to be, especially at that time. They trade the beard, ship him to Houston, keep Serge Ibaka. But then what happens after that? I'm not going to lie, like, let me go year by year for you guys so that I am not missing anything. And this is just his time on OKC. And this is why I say he's one of the unluckiest players. Because after 2012, after the 2012 season, what happens? He loses to the Memphis Grizzlies in 5 games. And again, I believe, what's his name? Russ wasn't playing. Yes, he loses to the Memphis Grizzlies. And again, Russell Westbrook wasn't playing. Russell Westbrook was hurt. So here we go, a guy in Kevin Durant, the year after making the finals, one of his guys gets traded, and then his co-star in Russell Westbrook gets hurt. It's kind of crazy to me. Then the very next year in 2014, they lose to the San Antonio Spurs. The San Antonio Spurs won in 2014. And even in that series, you had Reggie Jackson, 6th man at that time. Reggie Jackson was actually showing up a bit. You had Reggie Jackson showing up a bit. You had Russell Westbrook there. But again, guess what happened? Serge Ibaka gets hurt. He only plays 4 games. And it's like, what the heck? You know, and it's not like they were getting, like, they lost in 6 games in that series. So Serge Ibaka in that series can definitely be a game changer. Again, this is one of the better defenders in the game. And just a good piece in general for that crew. He definitely could have helped him out. Now, Serge Ibaka did play to close that series off, right? But what about the times leading up to that? You know, what about the games leading up to that and the games that he missed where they missed him? You know, they lost in their first 2 games. They lost their first 2 games. They were 2-0. They were down 0-2 in that series without Serge Ibaka, you know? So Serge goes a long way. If Serge is playing that whole series, guess what? Maybe that series goes a different way. You know? That's just something really to think about. So it's kind of crazy. It's really crazy to see what's happened to him. And then when we go into the 2015 season, they missed the playoffs. And again, KD gets hurt that year. So I hope y'all see a pattern. So in 2014, KD himself gets hurt. So 2012, Russ gets hurt. 2014, Serge gets hurt. 2015, what's his name gets hurt? KD himself gets hurt. And then in 2016, what happens? Everyone's there, everyone's healthy, and they blow a 3-1 lead. I don't think anyone, and I'm not gonna sit here and defend that 3-1 lead being blown at all. At all. KD blowing that 3-1 lead is crazy. But then even when we look at the team that they had, let's really put this into perspective. Let's really put this into perspective. You know, they faced the Golden State Warriors crew who just won a championship. Golden State Warriors crew who, bro, I mean, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, who was hooping in 2016, right? They just had a better team, if I'm going to be honest. So you expected Russ and KD to beat them, to beat Steph, Klay, and Dre with, you had Serge, good option. I mean, your floor spacers were Andre Roberson. Andre Roberson was playing 26 minutes a game. They were leaving him open religiously. They were religiously leaving that man open. Religiously. Come on. Sergio Baca, he like even though he made 44% in the playoffs, they ain't respecting that like that. They just weren't. Let's be honest. They not closing out hard on the Sergio Baca. Dion Waiters, come on. They were closing out. They were literally keying in on just Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant that whole entire series. It was really the Russ and KD show. And KD even had a problem with that. And that's why he has some issues with Billy Donovan. Because Billy Donovan has proven to just not be a great offensive coach. It's more of you guys just figure it out. He's a good defensive coach. But offensive coach, he just leans on his co-stars and lets them do whatever. And that's exactly what it was on OKC. So it really wasn't a lot of systems going on. It wasn't really anything to try to make up for the floor spacing. And then they didn't even have the players outside of KD, because Russ isn't a shooter like that either, outside of KD to really space the floor, you know? So I do believe OKC was a good team that year, but enough to beat the Golden State Warriors, I just don't see that. I just don't see that at all, you know? So KD's also just unfortunate. So look, that's his time on OKC. After he won the championship, 2012, made it to the finals. 2012 makes it to the finals. 2013, Russ gets hurt. 2014, Serge gets hurt. 2015, KD is hurt. And then 2016, come on, 3-1 lead. They blew a 3-1 lead. That is inexcusable. You just can't excuse that. But we can understand what happened and why that happened, right? KD's just also unfortunate to play in a time of LeBron James. Like, you played at the same time in the same era of LeBron James. Honestly, like, it's just unfortunate because, you was always the second man. It's always the second man, and everyone looked at you. Not the players themselves, but the media always looked at you as the second man, always chasing him. So that's just unfortunate in itself as well, right? And then, he makes the decision, man. I remember when he made that decision. And he made the decision to go to Golden State Warriors. And, dog, when I say that changed the whole atmosphere of the NBA, that changed literally everything. I remember getting a phone call from my friend saying, bro, this guy really went to Golden State. All the rumors were true. He really went there. Crazy. Now, I think KD's even admitted himself, right? KD's even admitted himself that he didn't handle everything the right way and that he was wrong in a lot of aspects. And that's where I got to tell people, like, where's y'all forgiveness at? Like, KD openly admitted saying he didn't handle everything right, especially with OKC, especially with Russ. And he was sorry for that. He did apologize for that. He did not handle everything the right way, right? So KD has already apologized for that and even in some ways made up for that. But people still use that to crucify him. And it's just crazy to me because he definitely made up for it. He definitely had those conversations with the people that he needed to. And he's definitely evolved as a character since then, So to me, still holding that against him is just crazy to me. It's just wild to me. Holding that decision to KD and even attacking his character is crazy. Now, when people say, yeah, it's a weak move, yada, 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 cool, yes. I guess in ways you can sit here and say it's a weak move, but this is where I got to ask y'all. You got to ask yourselves, like, how many times would y'all make the same weak move? How many times when there's a job opening and a time where you get a better environment, even better pay, I don't know if it was better pay, but you just get a better environment to perform your tasks, to perform your job at a very high level. Right? Even though you're grinding with the job that you have now, majority of y'all are going to take majority of y'all going to take the weak move. If I'm just going to be honest with you, majority of guys are going to take the weak move. So why are you criticizing KD for doing the same thing? Let's be honest. No, jobs are also very competitive. And in actuality, you can see here, you actually should make the case. Jobs are far more competitive than sports. Far more competitive. The There's far more sleazy things happening behind the scenes. It's a really cutthroat world when it really comes to business. I promise you, it is cutthroat without a doubt. There's people that will step all over you if they can. If they can, they will, majority of the time. Sports is far more cutthroat and far more competitive. I mean, not sports. Jobs are far more competitive and far more cutthroat than sports, without a doubt in my mind. Now with sports, there's actually, because of the players, actually, there's a level of open-mindedness because of that. But jobs, I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of grimy things that happens in business, without a doubt in my mind. So, and the majority of people complaining about KD and his ethics are the same people that will probably do grimy things in business as well. I'm just going to call it a spade a spade. Majority of them are. I'm just going to keep it real, honestly. So how dare they sit here and criticize KD when they would probably do the same exact thing? Even worse. Even worse, if I'm just going to be honest. So going at KD for that and his character is kind of crazy when, you know, you got to look at yourself and your own decision, what you made of your life. Majority of people don't even make the right decision. So I never understood that. But, you know, he goes to Golden State. He wins back-to-back. He gets hurt in 2019. You know, I don't really have to dive too much into the Golden State Warriors and what happened with them, because at the end of the day, we all know what happened. They won. They almost lost in 2018. I was really hoping they were going to lose, because I didn't like Golden State. I didn't like KD at that time or Steph. They got me so tight. But then KD, you know, he leaves. He goes to Brooklyn, and I think he's hurt for the first year. But in 2021, dog, and this is really where the luck just starts shooting him in the foot. It's insane. Because in 2021, I don't care what anyone says, the 2021 Nets crew is the best crew to never win a championship, without a doubt in my mind. They are the best crew to never win a championship. You had James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving on the crew. And whenever they were on the floor, I promise you, I did not see anyone beating them. They played amazing together. The few games they played with each other together, oh, bro, they were just cooking everyone. Even if they weren't all playing together at the same time. If it was either KD and Kyrie or KD and James Harden, they just looked phenomenal, dog. Phenomenal. I remember James Harden in that year when everyone got hurt. He was even cooking, having some MVP talks in 2021. Man, 2021 Nets is without a doubt in my mind the best team to never win a championship. And really, if we're really gonna be honest, this is where the luck hits. Because in 2021, what happened? And Jeff Teague even said it. Jeff Teague himself said, yeah, in 2021, man, with just Kyrie Irving, they were like, we're not going to win this, bro. I'm getting ready to pack my bags. You know, I'm getting ready, you know, to enjoy the summer, because the way these guys playing, we just not going to make it. Jeff Teague literally said that out of his own mouth. And Jeff Teague was on the crew on the Milwaukee Bucks. And he said everyone else felt the same. But he was like, when Kyrie got hurt, that's when everything changed. That's when Giannis changed, and that's when everyone changed. Look at that. That's so crazy. Like, yo, it's so wild, bro. Just one injury just changed everything. And Kyrie being hurt changed everything. And then James Harden, and salute to James that year. That man went out and he did whatever he could on a bad hammy. If you ever had a hamstring injury or a hamstring soreness, dog, playing on a bad hammy like that is insane. So salute to James Harden for doing that, because he definitely took one for the team and tried everything he could to make it, to really compete. And, KD wins a couple games with Kyrie. He's out. Now James Harden's out on a bum leg, sadly. And, bro, it's just literally foot on the line. Foot on the line, dog. Foot on the line. Ties the game instead of ending it. Ties the game. Crazy. Yo, you can't make that up. I remember watching that game. I was watching my older brother. And I said, yo, bro, it was the last shot. I said, yo, KD's going to take this. He's going to make it. I promise you. He goes like, nah. Nah, I said, dog, the way this man, because he was cooking in game 7. I said, the way this man is playing, he's not missing, bro. I said, he's not missing. He did that turnaround and hits it. I'm like, I told you. I told you. I said, it's over. And then what happened? Foot on the line. Bro, you could just see it. You could just see his whole demeanor change when he seen this foot was on the line. Everything, bro. That's a demoralizer. That's a killer, dog. Like, that kills you. Anyone who's been in a sport, anyone who's played it, you see something like that can take you out the game like that. That just, killed them. Killed them, bro. Killed them. So that's really when the luck starts. Then the bad luck starts. So they lose that. He didn't do well in overtime. The man was gassed, you can tell. He didn't do well in overtime. Giannis capitalized. Giannis wins in 2021, the Bucks. Then in 2022, what happens? Kyrie with the whole part-time stuff, part-time this, part-time that, COVID. And I actually supported Kyrie during that time, actually. I didn't really have an issue with that. I thought it was actually pretty good what he was doing. Because I'm not vaccinated. Like, I just thought it was stupid. And now, come to find out it was stupid, if I'm just going to be honest with you. And that's just my own opinion. I'm sorry. Y'all can be mad at me if y'all want. I don't care. So, yeah, he was doing part-time because of the vaccinations. And then Katie and Kyrie, and then James still on the crew. And then what happens when we're thinking we're going to run it up? When they're thinking they're going to sit here and repeat, what happens? And try to run this back and try to see what they can do. What happens? Nah, James Harden knocks on the door. Yeah, I want to trade. I don't want to be here no more. Send me somewhere else. Ruined everything. Because the 2022 Nets was a very good crude sale. And James Harden leaving destroyed everything. It really did. Because even though Kyrie was still very good at that time, him not being there full season definitely matters. The amount of time you play with a team matters immensely. It's very hard to just win championships when there's not a lot of cohesiveness with the crew, right? It's very hard to do that. So Kyrie being on part-time, they were so used to James Harden being the PG, and now they need to get adjusted to that and then Katie even got hurt that year. So they're trying to adjust to everything with like only a month or two left. It just can't happen. It's just very difficult for that to happen. And what happens? They lose to the Boston Celtics and get absolutely annihilated. Well, they got swept because they didn't get blown out every game. So this is where the bad luck starts here, because Ben Simmons couldn't really play like that, and that's who they got for James Harden. James Harden just requesting the trade in itself is just wild. And then it's like, this is where it starts, because then the next season, what happens? Because I think Katie got traded in 23, right? Let's see. Yes, Katie got traded in 23 to Phoenix. And then Phoenix faces the Denver Nuggets. And again, this is where Katie just off of just limited time playing with the Phoenix Suns. Hasn't gotten a lot of reps with them because he even got hurt that year. And they take them to 6 games. They were the team that took them to 6 games. The only team in the playoffs that took them to 6 games, it was the Phoenix Suns. And it's crazy. It's so crazy to me. And then when we look at that series, guess what happened? Guess what happened? Chris Paul got hurt. DeAndre Ayton gets hurt. And it's like, you just can't make this up. The injury bug struck again with the Phoenix Suns crew. Now, if you don't think that CP3 or Ayton is going to change them winning or losing, I can understand that. But listen, they lost in 6, and I do believe like having at least Chris Paul and Ayton there a bit does help out a little bit to maybe it can shift to their favor. You don't know. So it's like, because then Devin Booker and KD just had to put everything on their shoulders, like nothing. Because CP3 was still a good ball handler at that time, even though he wasn't what he used to be. He was definitely a good ball handler and decision maker at that time. They lost that. And I'm just sitting here like, bro, like, it's just, the injury bug is just crazy. It really hurt Kevin Durant, and it's really the majority of his career, because this is now over half of his. This is really over half of his career. Because I started in 2012, and this is from the age of 23 to now 34, 35. And then what happens in 2024? 2024, they get swept again by the Timberwolves. I don't think there was any injuries there. I just think a lot of people just play bad besides KD. But even then, that crew right there, I mean, Bradley Beal, Eric Gordon, Nurkic, the defense wasn't there. Grayson Allen, Okogie. It's like, it's just sad, bro. It's just sad. And then they missed the playoffs last year. It's like dag, dog. It's like dag, man. Like KD. So when we look at KD from 2012, it's like from 2013, injury. 2014, injury. 2015, injury. 2016, healthy. Not a good enough group. Blew a 3-1 lead. Wins with the Golden State Warriors. 2020 hurt. 2021, injury bug. 2022, trade/injury bug with Ben Simmons. 2023, injury bug. 2024, healthy, team not good enough, not better than the team they lost to. And then, 2025 missed the playoffs, didn't really have that good of a group. So when people criticize and look at Kevin Durant and look at his career, especially outside of Stephen Curry, and say he's not this, he's not that, he's not this, he's not that, he's not this, he's not that. When you actually look into KD's career and what happened and why he hasn't been able to have as much success as everyone would want him to have outside of Stephen Curry, I mean, you can actually have more of an understanding on why that was the case. And my thing is, especially if you are a guy that bigs up a guy like Karl Malone, especially if you're a guy that bigs up a guy like Dominique Wilkins, and you give them passes for losing, you give them passes for not, and still hold them at a very high level for not winning anything, I don't understand why KD doesn't get that same pass. If it's really just because of the decision you didn't like the move, I think you need to reevaluate yourself, in my opinion. You just do. Because Dominique Wilkins was just getting cooked left and right. His teams didn't win anything. But you guys always give him the excuse. You guys always give him the cop-out. But KD, you just don't want to. Why? Because he's better than him, if I'm going to be honest. Same thing with Karl Malone and even John Stockton. Karl Malone and John Stockton had each other. Karl Malone and John Stockton numerous times has underperformed and lost to teams that they should have beaten. That's the sad part. KD is not a lot of teams that he lost to that he should have beaten. It's just not a lot. Because he shouldn't have beaten, honestly, he shouldn't have beaten the Golden State Warriors. He was up 3-1. He shouldn't have beaten them. Shouldn't have beaten the 2014 Spurs. Shouldn't have beaten the Grizzlies. Shouldn't have beaten the Grizzlies again because his team was hurt. Shouldn't have beaten the Nuggets. His team was hurt. Shouldn't have beaten the Celtics. He shouldn't have beaten any of them. But Karl Malone and John Stockton, you just give them passes when they're losing series that everyone had them favored in. But they're still great players, and they're still amazing in their own right. But KD is the one that gets crapped on. That don't make sense to me. It just really don't. Even the LeBron defenders, like, you're a LeBron Glazer. Like, LeBron Glazers who be cooking KD where, he hasn't done anything without Steph. It doesn't make sense to me. How are you a LeBron Glazer and cooking KD when LeBron, a lot of the times, has failed in the postseason? But you make up all the excuses for him. You give all the reasonings for him and have all of the open-mindedness, but none of the open-mindedness for KD. That's not clicking for me. And it just don't make sense. It's inconsistent. It's inconsistent and contradictory. And it's just, you'll be moving weird. You feel me? It's just weird. Weird energy. Weird energy. Stay consistent. At least try. Everyone is going to be a hypocrite in some type of way, but we should always try our best to not live like that, and not a lot of people do that, especially when they talk about sports. It's like common sense goes out the window. But listen, that's all I got for tonight. That's really an outlook on KD's career and what's been happening. And I just believe that he gets judged very harshly and unfairly. And especially a player like him, it's kind of hard for me to look at a guy like that. But listen, like the video, subscribe, man. We'll see y'all again. Can't wait to talk about the season openers, man. So y'all be easy. Salute. Peace, bro.